Hi, I'm Heather Hubbard. I went from being a lawyer and partner at one of the largest firms in America to becoming an online personality and successful entrepreneur. I know what it takes to rise to the top. I also know all too well the toll it can take on your health and personal life. So how do you shine bright without burning out? How do you chase joy while achieving success? You're listening to the Hustle and Flow podcast. Welcome back to Hustle and Flow. I'm your host, Heather Hubbard, and we are on episode 201. And I am so excited to share with you the special guest that I have on here today, Aman Costigan. I met her. We started working together in 2020 during COVID after summer camp, and it has just been such a blessing for me to watch her grow during that time. And if you've been listening to the podcast at all, you know that I was actually going kind of through a difficult time throughout that period. And this may sound a little silly, but it's actually brought me a lot of joy to really just watch her grow and flourish. And I cannot wait for you to meet her and hear her story. But as a little bit of background, Aman is a lawyer and law firm partner turned life strategist for couples. So she and her husband, Tom, they teach couples how to create intentional lives by design through years of yoga, vision boards, which you know I love, investing in herself, and quarterly marriage alignment retreats. She has created the life of her dreams, and she is now helping other couples do the same. Aman, welcome to Hustle and Flow.
Thank you, Heather. From listening to your podcast in, I think, 2017, 2018 to now being on your podcast, this is a surreal and like full circle moment for me.
Yay! Well, it's exciting for both of us. So I would love for you to share with everyone, like when we met, what your life looked like at that point.
Yeah, so I met you from your podcast. So for me, that was like 2017, 2018, even though you didn't know that I was listening to you and that I was out there in my bathroom every morning before work. Had you in my ears, just kind of listening to the hustle and then the flow side of lawyering and practice. So I had become a law firm partner in 2018. And I was finally done checking all the boxes that I thought that there were to check. So it's like there were no more boxes to check at that point. And so I kind of looked around and was like, okay, what's next? And by then I had been practicing for about 6 years. And I had a little bit of air. And I was like, is this the light? Like, is this the rest of my life? And I really started to question what had happened to my hobbies, to the amount of time I wanted to see my family who lived not in the same city as me. And I really started to reevaluate things. And that's when I started bringing in more. I actually signed up for your planning conference in San Diego. The pandemic happened, so I didn't end up going to that. And I signed up for a quarterly marriage alignment retreat couples program where I learned that back in 2020. And also for an online business and personal development thing. So a lot of things were changing for me in 2018, where I was looking outside to be like, hey, I've made it. I quote unquote made it to everybody else, but what's next for me? And what is the life that I want to be living? Because this isn't the one that I thought was going to make me happy.
And then if we move to 2020, is that when you and Tom got married?
Yeah, so we got married during the pandemic. I was like, we're not waiting. We've been together since law school, so it's been 11 years. And I was like, we're not waiting. We're going to do this. I don't know when the pandemic's going to end. You can keep pushing it out, but I have nobody knew. So I was like, we're getting married. Or I should say we were like, let's get married and not push it off. And that then brought me to you and your summer camp and then the limited mastermind that you had. And again, expanding my brain as to what's possible as a lawyer and it being not wrong to have other passions outside of the law that I wanted to pursue, that there wasn't anything wrong with me for wanting to have my own business or to have a podcast, because I had met other women in your group who were moms and podcast hosts and online business owners, and they were lawyers at the same time. So for me, it was just expanding my brain as to like, hey, there's a different way I can live my life. And that was through your mastermind and also like other programs that I'd signed up for that were just kind of changing the way I saw that life could be lived.
And when you say that you went to the quarterly alignment retreat, was that with Akoma?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So for those of you listening, you may recall, so Akoma Morono, she was been on the podcast and was a facilitator for the 2020 mastermind. So I kind of always love when these worlds collide. So what was it about the quarterly alignment retreats? It's QMAR, right? You all have this saying for it, and I never really remember. Quarterly marriage alignment retreats. Yes. Okay. Sorry. I'm answering my own question. What was it about that that really helped you? Because I just know a lot of what the goals that you two have together that you are just ticking off, and it's been so impressive. So I'm interested in what it was about those retreats that really helped you guys.
So before Tom and I were meeting every quarter to go through the 5 sessions over a weekend, I would plan by myself. So I was always, goal planning before the next year in December. I would be goal setting and planning my goals, what they were from a health perspective, a money perspective, all the kind of personal development stuff. And I'd be doing that over like Christmas to New Year's because that was like one of my favorite things to do. But then we lived together and then we were getting married the following year. And I was like, well, isn't this kind of weird that I'm like planning my life by myself, but then I have a partner who's like very integrated into my life, but yet I'm sitting down to do all these things, but I'm not talking at all with my partner about what our goals are, or, hey, I was sharing my goals, but we were never coming up with them together or talking together, because if I was making money goals, that would have an impact on my partner. And so it really occurred to me when Akoma offered her program, which, by the way, I met her when I was an anonymous personal finance blogger, when I met her at a FinCon conference in 2019, actually. So it was really cool to hear on your podcast and then to meet her in real life and then to do her program. So her program allowed us to actually sit down and spend time together and create the space in what we all call the busy seasons of life, and there's no time, and all the excuses that I think we make up for not sitting down to do the work. And it just allowed us time and space to connect with each other and talk about what and how we saw our lives unfolding. We had just been kind of going in reaction mode, really. And we had made financial plans that we had committed to. So we weren't unaware of how to set goals and achieve them, but it wasn't something we had done from like a holistic approach about where do we want to live, and just redeciding, like, do I want to be a lawyer every year? What do my days look like? What's my ideal life? Where are we living? Talking about kids, right? So all those things were coming up and we didn't have a way of talking about them, but her program, her weekend, allowed us to create that space and then to have that dialogue and then continuing it every quarter, because honestly, every quarter just kind of passes by sometimes. And I'm like, oh, it's already time for another one. And so I think it's just a great way to make sure that it happens and make sure that you're connecting with your partner versus years passing by or just saying like, one day I'm going to do this.
It's really impressive to see how being so intentional, like, it seems to me like it happened overnight. And maybe you all actually started doing this like so much sooner, because I know you kind of were into like FinCon, FinTech, but that was 2020. It is now 2024. And you both retired from law. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy. So it happened sooner than we thought it was going to happen. We thought it was going to be closer to our 40s. We're currently 38. We thought it was going to be, kind of 2 to 5 years out, not right now. It literally happened a month apart. So my last day in law was April of this year, and Tom's last day was May. So that was not planned, but because we had done the work back in 2017 and 2018, we had 2 Mercedes. We sold them for 1 vehicle. People thought we were crazy. People kept saying, when are you going to upgrade your house? Because we live in a house that's like average, and people expected more from a partner and a lawyer who were married together. And people just started questioning things like, why don't you do certain things in a certain way that society expects you to? And lifestyle creep was real. So it was really getting intentional about those. So really, like, to be fair, that's been kind of a 7, 8 year process of like getting the financial piece together, because if we didn't have the financial piece together, we wouldn't have been able to leave law this year together. So having that together, and then in addition to kind of 2020 to now 4.5 years later of doing QMARS, we've gone through fertility treatment. We had our son, right? That requires intentionality. There's tests, blood tests you got to go to, things you got to drop. Your life priorities change in a way when you're going through that process. We traveled with our son to Portugal for 6 weeks when he was 3 months old. We did that together while on parental leave. So we were getting paid while we were traveling. That, again, was an intentional thing that we did. I was able to be a rom-com movie extra, make another dream come true. Yes. It's called Mr. Christmas was one of them, and Coupled Up for Christmas was the other one. But that was a dream come true for me. So it was doing those sorts of things together. We've also taken time to, we just came back actually from Italy for a month with our son as well before we welcome our second child, which is coming in November. So again, a lot of intentionality around our leaving the law and taking this time before baby number 2 arrives to spend time with our son right now and our time together and individually. That was really, really important for us to take our time individually before things, change again and we kind of figure out what's next for us. But we've been able to take dreams that would take people years, if not they would never ever do, or kind of have that one day I'm going to do X. We've been able to do it probably every quarter. We set goals and generally we hit them. And if not, they move to the next one, but they are completed generally quickly. Obviously, fertility treatment, you can't necessarily control, but when you do put some intention behind it and you make it a priority, you can be surprised as to what happens.
Even like you're saying, right, it was 7 to 8 years. So many of us have goals, especially like financial goals or other things that are like this like long-term plan, but we don't break it down and we don't get it right in front of us, such that I feel like a lot of people listening to this would be like, if I thought I had enough money to retire in 7 to 8 years, right? Just through being super intentional, my guess is that would in many ways blow their mind. But I feel like there's a few things there. One is being super intentional and super focused and being willing to get uncomfortable, being willing to have others not understand or approve, and just really staying focused each step of the way to get what it is that you want for the future. I feel like so many of us don't want to get uncomfortable in the now, which just kind of keeps us stuck. Whereas when you get uncomfortable in the present, knowing what you're moving towards, it actually provides, I don't know if you feel this way, a sense of purpose and joy and excitement, knowing that you're doing it for something.
Yes. Yes. I love the way that you said that. I 100% agree. Our own parents don't understand what we're doing. And I like to be careful with the word retire, because I think part of it I missed when I was talking about all the goals and things we've achieved and my work with you in 2020 was when I worked with you, I then went on to teach yoga to lawyers virtually. So Beyond Yoga for Lawyers was a huge business of mine on top of practicing law. And that was through connections with the groups that I made with you and the lawyers that I met. And I was able to sign 18 lawyers in the first round of classes that I had, which is crazy to think in 2021 that I was able to do that. I then went on to teaching vision boards for lawyers. I've done workshops in person and virtually, which have also both been very successful. So it's given me that ability, the confidence, but also the ability to get uncomfortable, like you're saying, set those goals and achieve them. Not every time did I sign 18 people, but that's not the point. The point was that I was willing to get uncomfortable, put myself out there, try new things, surround myself with different people who were living life differently. And that's allowed me to be here when other people don't understand. And I have to be okay with other people not understanding the way I'm living my life right now.
And to be clear, you and Tom, right? Like it's not as if you're like, and now we're not doing anything, because you still have hobbies and passions and hopes and dreams and ideas. It's just that you have the flexibility to figure it out and to do what you want. And one of the things that you are doing is together, you are now offering strategic planning and coaching for couples, right?
Exactly, exactly. And the days, and I think this is really important. One of the things I thought is like, when I'm not practicing law, I'm going to have all this time to do all these things that I never had time to do. And I'll be real, that's not what's been happening in the last, little while since I've stopped practicing. I love life strategists for couples and the work that we're going to be doing with couples and QMARs and the work we've already done and where I kind of see it going even further. But it's not like you magically are going to have the cleanest house on the block and you're going to have the nicest yard. Like, I just don't think I think that's what I thought was going to happen. Magically, all this time was going to appear and all the problems that I saw, the things that I always wanted to do were going to be done. But that's not true. You still have to prioritize. You still have to be intentional. And if you pick what you're going to put your time onto. And for us right now, Tom's taking a sabbatical. He's now going for runs and he reads outside during the day and he, is doing things that he wants to do with his time while he just kind of takes this little bit of a break to figure out who he is and what his identity is without the law, which is huge for him. And then for me, I've been kind of working since 2020 and maybe even just before that, building onto my identity. I'm a lawyer and I'm these other things. And so for me, it's been a little bit of an easier transition right into kind of my next thing. My next dream is like, now I want to build my own business.
All right. So let's talk about what it looks like to plan together, because you and Tom, any couple, right? You still have your own identity. You still have your own goals, right? And then there is the goals for the family, for the marriage. And I love how you said, if you're planning on your own without ever really looping in the other person, like that could be problematic. And when I've been married for 25 years now. And anytime I think about the times where we've really struggled, it's because we were going down two totally different paths and we weren't really aligned on the bigger vision at the moment. So I would love for you to share just a little bit more about what that work looks like.
Sure. So it's evolved over the last 4.5 years. You kind of get to make it your own once you figure out the framework, which is what I love. So the framework is, on a Friday night, you'll start with intention setting. So you pick one intention. Again, right? Prioritize. You can't solve all of the problems in one night or one weekend. And I should also clarify that the QMAR is not meant to be counseling or therapy in any way. It's meant for couples who are looking to go from good to great or remarkable, right? Like, it's not for people who are going to leave their partner in a year or who have thought about that. And so it's setting an intention. I thought I should be clear about that, but it's setting an intention for what you want to accomplish for the weekend. And so it could be just reconnection with your partner. It could be a 5-year plan. It could be financial, something of a financial piece to it as well. So it's really just picking one thing. So that Friday night is kind of easy and super chill and really just meant to connect, and you do something together. So rather than maybe you turn on a show and you watch a show together, that's your normal routine. We encourage you to not do that. Maybe leave the TV off and play a game, play a card game, go out and do something, like just try to make it different. And also, we do half of our QMARs out of town and half of our QMARs at home. So throughout the year, we kind of mix and match depending on kind of what's going on. And then the next day, Saturday, is the full day, which starts in the morning on reflection. So you reflect on the 8 categories of life. So health, fun and recreation, family and friends. So all the 8 categories, you go through them and you reflect on the last quarter. You note down highs and lows, and then you share that with your partner. And then you also share some wins that you noticed of your partner. So that would be things that I personally noticed that Tom was doing as a win. And so for me, I love that part, hearing from my partner about things that they noticed that I didn't even think about were things that I was having as a win throughout the last quarter. And then you rate the wheel categories, and then it just gives you a perspective about, how the last quarter is going before you move into the next session, which is session 3, dream casting. So at first, when I started this, I was like, I have no dreams. I don't even know what I would say. Tom and I were kind of nervous about it because we really haven't slowed down at the time to think about what our dreams are, right? We've become lawyers. Isn't that the dream? So that's kind of where things started, but now it's one of our favorite sections. So that one you want to do with physically. So you don't want to be looking at each other like at a restaurant table, because it just doesn't generate the same amount of activity and ideas, I feel. So the first part is a visualization, which you'll do individually by yourself. So I actually have taken my Beyond Yoga stuff and my meditation work and have brought that into the program. And so it's a video that you just play, and it's talking you through, like, what is something you wanted to learn, but you haven't had the time? What does your ideal day look like? Just kind of letting your mind kind of even just start to open up. And then I throw in some thought starters to help people get started. Because sometimes if you're like me, you have no ideas, no thoughts, your mind goes blank. And then the second part of dream casting is getting outside with your partner. So it could be a walk. We've done a hyperbaric chamber. We've done snow angels on a frozen lake when it was like -25. So just getting outside to like generate ideas. And then I come back and I record those ideas. So we'll take a minute to record all that because I love reflecting back, seeing what our goals were in 2020, 2021, and then now. And then the last piece of the Saturday is financial. So this is a huge one. It's not a deep dive. This is literally just like an overview. What is our net worth? Where are our accounts standing at? And what are our accounts? Because there's a lot of couples who don't even talk about money to their partners. They just kind of ignore it and don't want to look at it because, again, it's uncomfortable, and it makes us look at things we don't want to, and it brings up a whole lot of feelings. So that's Saturday. The bonus for Saturday is that we encourage couples to go out and do something fun. Again, something that you don't normally or ever have done. And then on Sunday morning, you wrap it all up with goal setting. So this is where you go back through, pull out the wheel of life, the 8 categories, you write down some goals that you have, and then you prioritize. So obviously you would pick 3 or less so that you don't try to overdo your quarter. For me, I have a tendency to pick way too many goals. And so I have to really kind of shorten them and figure out, okay, what are the real priorities and what's really possible with what's going on in life right now. So you get really, really specific about that. We talk about the couple goals. So if there are individual ones we want to pursue and couple ones we want to pursue, we talk about that. We talk about ones that didn't make the list this time, but maybe you want to revisit the next time. And then finally, you wrap it up with, like you and I both like to do, is kind of that book ending. So we make sure we schedule the next one into the next quarter. So it's in our calendar and there's no kind of, oh, we forgot, or, oh, we'll do it later. We message our babysitter or Tom's parents and say, this is when we're thinking. We make sure we get the care. We make sure we decide if it's going to be away or at home. And then we make sure we have all of our stuff ready to go for the next one. And I also make sure that we write our goals down onto a sticky note and we put them into the bathroom so we see them at least 2 times a day. So it's just reinforcing, and they just don't kind of stay in a binder closed in somebody's desk or on a piece of paper somewhere in the house.
You were already a planner. You were already doing the visualizations and the yoga and all the things, right? Like I love all the things. How did Tom react when you invited him to do this? Like, was he just like all in? Is he a planner too? Or was he a little bit resistant or uncomfortable?
I would say resistant, uncomfortable, not totally on board when I asked him. And so the financial session was the only session he was interested in, because that's like his love is personal finance and investing. That's his love. And his gifts have allowed us to be where we are here today. And then I'm kind of like, well, you need the financial piece that goes with the other pieces to all go together. So there were some conversations for sure that happened. And he's also seen the changes that I've been able to make through my goal setting throughout the years and how I've made them happen. That kind of intrigued him to be like, what do I have to lose to try this? Like,
Yeah.
what is there to lose if I try this and do it? And yeah, dream casting was like it's a little rocky when you do the sessions for the first time, and even the second time, it's rocky. They're a little uncomfortable. They're a little weird. You think you're doing it wrong, but you're not. It's just because we've never done it before and we've never had these conversations. And so it's really just creating those safe spaces together, and also watching the way that I react, and the way that I create that space, because I'm a very like, it should be like this, it should be like this. I'm very logical and I see a flow, but he doesn't see that. Like my goals, if you see them in the bathroom, they're like lines long. His goals, sometimes they only have 1 word, and I have to be okay with that. Like his goals are his goals. I can't write his goal. Like I'm not going to write his goals, but he achieves them in the way that he does. And so for me, it's just giving that space for that I'm not right or wrong in the way I do it. We all have our own way if we can get to where we're going.
I love that I didn't know what the answer was going to be, but I was like, I hope he was a little bit resistant and uncomfortable, because I suspect that most people listening, they have a partner that, especially if they're kind of planners and they're like, oh my God, I would love to do this, but I don't think my partner would be up for it. So I love to hear that Tom was a little resistant at first. For those who are listening, who are also like, I really want to do this, but I'm not sure if I could even get my partner on board. Like, what would you say to that? Like, how do you, I don't want to say convince, but How would you approach that conversation?
So my inside voice is that I think if you have a good marriage and looking to go remarkable, honestly, it's our obligation when you get married to do these things. Like this is important, right? I don't want to be the couple at the table who has nothing to talk about in 20 years from now, right? I don't want to be them. I want to have adventures. I want to live a life that's full. I want to live a life that's, it's going to have hard moments, and I accept that. And I want to make the most of things. I don't just want to be, work, kids, Netflix, wine, sleep, repeat, right? Like I just don't. And so putting that, like, I think there's an obligation. If you're in that kind of marriage, there's an obligation to do this work together. You've committed for life together. So this is part of it. But beyond that, I think part of it is like making it fun and not making like it's like another task or a work thing or a home renovation project, right? We can make this fun. Like we can do things and just have no expectations, right? Like we're just kind of, it's an invitation to hang out, to spend time together. Like a lot of us don't do that unless we intentionally make time to go on a date night or to, do something together, or somebody else organizes something for us. Generally, we're not like, are we talking to each other and having these deep, meaningful conversations about where we want our life to go? Generally, the answer is no. And especially if you have kids, the answer is also no. But even if you don't have kids, sometimes you just fill it with other things. And so I think it's really important to sell it to your partner as something that's fun and that's going to bring you closer together. And there's no expectations around it. And I also think looking at my guide, I have a free guide on my website, which outlines every single session that there is and walks through exactly what it is. So if somebody doesn't know what to expect and they want to know, I'm kind of like that. Like, what am I signing up for? What is this? What's it all part of? How long is it going to take? All that information is in there. So I think sometimes when we have more information, it makes us more at ease. We're still nervous and uncomfortable about it, but maybe we'll be more willing to do it if we knew exactly what it looked like. And the fact that it's only a weekend. And I should also note that if you can't do it over a weekend, Tom and I have done it over the course of a week. When we had Mateo and he was less than 3 months old, we did it over a week because it was that, or we just don't do it. And it was important for us to make sure we do it.
I was giggling a little bit there because we both know that you never get the details from me.
And I'm uncomfortable. Did I say that? And I'm okay with putting myself in discomfort.
You show up anyway. You're like, I don't even know what I'm getting into, but I'm going to trust Heather. I love this, love this, love this. And because, I mean, for so many of us that are high achievers, we have these business plans, right? We have these career plans. Why wouldn't we also have marriage, coupleship, family plans? I think it's just such a beautiful offering, and it just makes me really excited that you all are offering this. I know you've got a launch coming up. You've done your beta programs. You've got a big launch coming up. Will you tell us what is coming up and if people would like to work with you, how they can do so?
Sure. Yes. So I'm super excited to come back from Italy, and I'm like just jazzed about this and can't wait to put it out into the world. So I am opening up founding member pricing, 10 spots for couples. So it's going to run from July 22nd. So I think your podcast comes out the next day, the 23rd.
The 23rd.
Yeah, the Tuesday. And then I'm closing the launch on the 29th, unless obviously the 10 spots are gone before that. But as soon as the 10 spots are gone, I'm doubling the prices for the offering. So I have 2 offerings. The first one is the QMAR program, which is going to have the instructional videos that couples can do at any time that they want. There's a 20-page workbook that goes with it. And then there's a private Facebook community as well to connect you with other couples worldwide who want to create intentional lives. That's offer 1. And then offer 2 is going to add in the strategy calls with Tom and myself. So I think that this just increases your accountability to actually do your QMAR and helps you achieve your results faster, and also gives you another perspective as to helping you set up for your QMAR. So there's a pre-call, so to get you ready, and I have a 1-page checklist, of course I do, that sets out like your meals, what you need to think about for activities, and we meet and we go through that checklist so you're fully planned and ready to go. And then at the back end, we'll have a strategy call once you have your goals with your partner. We'll meet with both of you and we will help you strategize and test some of your goals and just double check to make sure that everything is in alignment, and maybe even also offer you some resources that we can think about that can help. So again, increasing that accountability and it actually happening and you actually doing it, and working with two live human beings like Tom and I, who have been doing this for 4.5 years, but also, now sharing it. So those are the two offerings. So one doesn't have the one-on-one sessions and one does have the one-on-one sessions. And yeah, so I'm doubling the prices as soon as those 10 spots are gone. I'm doubling the prices, and because you told me my prices were probably too low.
They were way too low.
So those are the founding member prices. And then as soon as those 10 spots are gone, I'm doubling everything, and I'm going to continue offering it, but obviously not at the discounted rate.
Right. So get in now. Okay. I'm going to put the links in the show notes, but for those who are just like listening on the go, they're just going to write it down without going to the show notes. Do they just go to amancostigan.com?
Yes. And then /program.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much for coming on. I cannot wait to watch what you and Tom continue to do. Like I said, I get excited just watching you and how you just commit and you keep creating these wonderful things. And as you said, just like creating a life that you absolutely love. So y'all go check out Aman. Aman, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me for this week's podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, give the episode a like and leave a comment below so we can keep the conversation going. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a future episode or announcement. Listening on Apple, Spotify, or another podcast app, you can watch the video and join in the after-show conversation by visiting hustleandflowpodcast.com.